I mocked the street kid who touched my Ferrari, until I learned why he knew so much about cars. The day it happened, I thought I was unstoppable. 35, self-made, driving the latest Ferrari through the city, every shiny red curve reflecting proof of my success. People stared as I cruised through traffic, the low growl of the engine turning heads. I loved it. I loved me in it. But that illusion shattered when I saw a boy leaning too close to my car in front of a small repair shop downtown. A kid in worn clothes, maybe 15, tracing the emblem on the hood with wonder. I jumped out angry. My voice echoed louder than I intended. "Hey, don't touch that!" He quickly backed away, eyes wide, hands trembling. But instead of apology, he said something odd. "Sorry, sir, I just wanted to see the intake lines. This model's tuning sounds a bit uneven." I frowned. What could this kid possibly know about performance tuning? I laughed, rolled my eyes, and drove off. But his words stuck with me. That was the start of everything. The unraveling of my arrogance and the beginning of a story that changed what I valued most. The encounter. The next day, my route took me past the same street. I spotted the same kid again, wiping grease off his hands outside that shabby garage. He gave me a small nod, like he didn't even hold a grudge from yesterday. I don't know why I stopped, maybe curiosity or guilt. "Hey kid, you said something about the intake lines." He looked surprised but smiled faintly. "Yeah, when you revved, it sounded like the air-fuel ratio isn't balanced. Could just be a dirty sensor." That brought me up short. That was actually possible. I didn't admit that he might be right, of course. Pride isn't easy to shut off. I smirked. "You sure you didn't just read that online?" He shrugged. "Nah, I help my uncle fix bikes. I listen a lot." He said it with quiet confidence, the kind that only comes from experience. That moment, I noticed his eyes. Not fear, not envy, just passion. The kind I'd lost years ago, chasing luxury instead of love for what I did. The strange suggestion. I drove off thinking about that kid's comment. "Dirty sensor," he'd said. I brushed it off at first. What would a high school dropout know about a machine worth more than everything on that block combined? But 2 days later, when I took my car for a spin along the freeway, I noticed it again. A slight hesitation on the acceleration, a roughness in the sound. I pulled over at my usual mechanic, a certified Ferrari specialist. After a 15-minute inspection, he frowned slightly. "Looks like a minor issue with your airflow sensor, probably debris." My stomach dropped. The kid had been right, exactly right. That realization hit me harder than I expected. I couldn't stop thinking about him. How did he know that? Pure luck. Or talent. I drove downtown again, looking for him. He was there as if waiting for something else to break. "You were right," I said, stepping out before my ego could stop me. He smiled, shy but proud. "Told you." I asked his name. "Jalen." Then I asked if he wanted lunch. He hesitated, like he wasn't used to offers like that, but followed me anyway. By the time we finished eating, I felt something strange, admiration. This wasn't a random street kid. There was something more, something smart, observant, disciplined. He reminded me of a younger version of myself, before the suits, before the polished arrogance. The lunch talk. We sat in a quiet diner. The waitress gave Jalen a surprised look, probably wondering why a man in a tailored suit was eating with a kid covered in grease stains. I didn't care. Something about him intrigued me. I asked how he knew so much about cars. He stirred his soda with a straw, eyes lowered. "My dad used to be a mechanic," he said. "He worked on race cars before his accident. He taught me to listen, to understand the sound of an engine like it's breathing." There was no drama in his voice, no attempt to impress, just calm truth. He told me his dad had passed away 2 years ago. Since then, he had been helping his uncle at the shop while saving every bit of money to buy used tools and build a small workspace of his own. His dream: to design engines that anyone, rich or poor, could afford and still feel proud of. I listened, stunned. I'd spent years chasing high-end engineering contracts and luxury lifestyle trophies, but this kid, he just wanted to create. There was something deeply humbling about that. When he spoke about engines, his eyes glowed like he was describing art, not machinery. I left that diner thinking about my own journey. Once, I was that passionate. Somewhere along the way, I'd traded heart for status. An unexpected offer. A week passed before I saw him again, this time covered in more motor oil than usual. The Ferrari's maintenance light came on that morning, pure coincidence or destiny. As I pulled up, he grinned. "You again," he said. "You break things just so I can fix them." I laughed for the first time in a while. Maybe I need better luck or better help. Then I surprised even myself with what came next. "How would you like to visit my garage?" His eyes shot wide. "Your garage, like the one where the supercars go," I nodded. "Exactly that." That Saturday, I took him. The moment we entered, I saw the wonder wash over him, rows of luxury cars lined up under halogen spotlights. He didn't rush to touch anything. He just looked, listened, absorbed. Then he walked straight up to one, crouched down and said, "You should run a heat test on this one. The exhaust layer's uneven." My chief technician stared. He checked, and sure enough, Jalen was right again. That's when I decided. This kid wasn't just smart. He had intuition machines could replicate. So I offered him part-time weekends at my private garage, nothing fancy, but paid learning. He thanked me so quietly it almost broke me. Pride in lessons. Jalen became a weekend regular. My team noticed quickly. He didn't talk much, just worked, cleaned tools, asked smart questions, observed everything. My staff loved his energy. For the first time, my workshop buzzed with genuine excitement again. But old habits die hard. One afternoon, a partner of mine visited, a loud investor, the kind who measured people by money. He saw Jalen scrubbing tools and whispered with a smug smile, "You picked up a stray." I wanted to defend Jalen, but found myself frozen, embarrassed. Jalen heard it. He didn't say a word, just lowered his head and kept working. That hurt more than any insult. Later, I tried to apologize, but he just said, "It's okay. People see what they want." Then, as he tightened a bolt, he added, "Engines don't care who fixes them as long as it's done right." That line rooted deep. I couldn't shake it. That night, I stared at myself in the mirror, realizing how much of my life revolved around showing off, not building, not helping. Not creating, just proving. The accident. One rainy evening, I received a call from the garage. Jalen had been in an accident. While helping move a delivery crate, a loose jack slipped, injuring his leg. I rushed there, heart pounding. He was sitting against the wall, pale but calm. "Hey," he said through a wince, "guess I should have checked that crank twice." Even in pain, he joked. I called an ambulance and stayed with him all night at the hospital. He tried to downplay it. "It's just a sprain," he said. But I saw the truth in his face, fear. Not of the injury, but of losing his chance to work, to learn. Before leaving, the nurse handed me his worn notebook. Inside were engine sketches, notes on airflow, cost-efficient tuning diagrams, all in his handwriting. I flipped to a page labeled Project Hope, a design for an affordable electric car using recyclables. That was the night I decided to help him, really help him. Not out of guilt, not out of pity, but because he deserved a chance to build what he dreamed of. Project Hope. By the time Jalen was back on his feet, I had a plan. I called him to my office and placed a folder on the desk. Inside were design blueprints, his blueprints professionally formatted. "What's this?" he asked, eyes wide. "Your project," I said. "We're making it real." He blinked, speechless. I told him I'd set up a small fund and workshop for him under my supervision. His work, his name, his concept. It wasn't charity, it was investment in talent. The kind of investment I once wished someone had given me when I started. The first day at the new workspace, Jalen stood in the middle of the room, staring like he couldn't believe it existed. Then he got to work. Long nights, short meals, endless tinkering. And every time I dropped by, I saw myself a little less in the mirror and him a little more. The test drive. 6 months later, the prototype stood ready, an electric car built from salvaged parts and smart engineering. Small, sleek, efficient. Jalen called it the Phoenix. He invited me for the first test. The car whirred to life smoothly, cleaner than many commercial models. I watched him drive it around the lot, laughter spilling out like music. When he parked and stepped out, the workers clapped. I realized I hadn't felt pride like that in years. Real pride, not ego. Somewhere between arrogance and mentorship, I had found purpose again. After the test, he handed me a small plaque he'd made. For believing after mocking. My throat tightened. I didn't deserve that kindness, but he gave it anyway. Full circle. Months later, a small automotive magazine featured Project Hope. Social media picked it up. Street kid builds electric car with mentor's help. The attention poured in. Investors called. One wanted to mass produce it. I watched Jalen speak confidently at the press event. Clean haircut, crisp shirt, glowing smile. He didn't mention my wealth or my name first. He said, "Everything I know started with someone who pushed me and then listened." People clapped, cameras flashed. But for me, the loudest sound was the quiet realization. This boy had become the man I wanted to be when I was his age. And I almost missed him, blinded by pride. The moral. When I first saw Jalen touching my Ferrari, I saw a threat to my status. Now I see the symbol of my ignorance. He didn't need the Ferrari. He had something far rarer, purpose. I still drive that car, but it's no longer my trophy. It's simply a vehicle like any other. What matters now is who rides beside me. Sometimes that's Jalen giving me advice about mechanical efficiency. Sometimes it's silence reminding me of the lessons I nearly ignored. What started as arrogance ended as awakening. I once measured success by price tags. Now I measure it by people. Moral of the story. Don't mock what you don't understand. Some of the wisest people hide beneath the dust of struggle. Talent has no uniform, respect has no price, and kindness costs nothing but changes everything.